This gentleman runs the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange. And so if you're looking for insights into the world of crypto and where it's headed, no better place to start than with you. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
CZ, let's begin with this. What does everybody in this room need to know and understand about crypto that they probably don't yet appreciate?
Well, I think most people in this room probably do understand crypto to some level, but this is the future. It's a technology. It's not a currency, not a commodity, that it can be classified into, but it's a technology. Technology and innovations do not stop. This is like in the early 2000s or in the 90s, this is the internet. The internet will not stop. It may progress at a fast or slow pace, but this is the future. This is the future technology that will power money, financial markets, and many other things.
What about the evolution of crypto do you find most exciting right now?
So right now, it's all the applications that does not exist in the traditional financial world that are taking off. Raising money globally for your entrepreneurial projects. ICOs have a bad name, but however you classify it, that's one application that's very popular now. If you're an artist or if you're a content creator, being able to monetize your work through an NFT, they're very hot right now. So that's another mechanism that they cannot do in fiat currencies. There's GameFi, play to earn, there's decentralized social media. Hasn't taken off yet, but all of these are things that traditional fiat currencies cannot do. This narrative that crypto is going to replace the existing traditional financial sector is a bit too early. We have not seen that yet.
But will it? Will crypto replace traditional finance, or will traditional finance and crypto effectively merge and become the same thing?
I think traditional finance will always be, will be big. Today, probably only 1% or less of the money is in crypto, much less, probably much less than that. So today, traditional finance is big. It's gonna take time for, I don't think in the short term there's any replacements. But in the long term, some of the things may be replaced. So this is like, if we look 20 years back, say video conferencing is going to replace in-person work. Today, still haven't really done that. Even with COVID, we kind of shifted a little bit to that direction. But it takes decades to really replace something. But e-commerce has replaced quite a lot of, has impacted a lot of real commerce.
Faster than many people expected.
But it also took 20 years, right? So there were jokes. Yeah. So there were jokes like, even in the early 2000s, you can buy a hamburger online, but you can't eat it. But now you can.
Well, we're already 13 years into Bitcoin.
Yes. So I think, but still today, the applications in crypto are still, the ones that are taking off are the ones that are not available in traditional fiat currencies. Payments has not really taken off. It's one of those like really obvious first use cases, but it just hasn't really taken off.
Why?
Most of the payments, like if you pay for coffee, etc., it works pretty well today already. So you're using your credit card, or most people don't use cash now. You can use a mobile payment system. Works pretty well. But if you want to pay people across the world, then the traditional fiat currencies doesn't work that well. So I think it's those use cases that the traditional financial services don't cover that will take off first.
Since you mentioned replacement, I feel like I have to ask you this question. Do you want to see crypto, whether it's Bitcoin or whether it's a variety of coins or something that we haven't yet seen, replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency? Would that be a good thing?
I'm actually not sure. It depends on how it's done. I think a direct replacement is probably not good. I think we should evolve the world in small incremental steps and not big moves. Whenever you have a big move, a big abrupt change is usually bad for most people. The current players may not be ready. The industry may not be ready. I think slow incremental change is probably the best. I think US dollar serves its purpose. It's great, but we can do things that are rounded first. And then I think slow gradual change is best because the impact to industries, to society needs to be managed.
CZ, this week, Binance published what I'll call a crypto manifesto. It's the 10 fundamental rights for crypto users, and they include privacy, safe custody, robust liquidity, and safe access to some of the things that you've already talked about, emerging technologies such as NFTs and also staking and yield farming. I'd like to know, who are you most directly addressing with this manifesto? Regulators or rival exchanges?
I think it's everybody. I think we want to get the message out there. We have been talking with regulators around the world quite a lot. Many of our users may not know that we're doing this. And there's different perceptions in different parts of the world, both on the user side, on the regulator side, on the existing financial players. They don't really understand crypto, and we think that we need to look at all of this holistically.
You say regulation is inevitable.
Yeah.
Is that because you want it or can't stop it?
I think we actually want regulation. I am not a complete libertarian. I'm not an anarchist. I don't believe human civilization is advanced enough to live in a world with no rules. I don't think our civilization is that advanced yet. So if we want to live, we probably will need some rules to work well, and those rules are regulations. And also, I think crypto adoption right now is probably around 5% globally, population-wise. Those 5% are early adopters. The rest of the 95% or the 90-something percent, most of the users probably will feel safer using a cryptocurrency exchange that's licensed, that have a local office, etc.
Optimistically, how long do you think it will take to go from 5% today to 100% adoption, where people around the world are using crypto with as much comfort and ease as they use cash or credit cards or more and more these days mobile payments?
I think it will take a couple of decades, to be honest, to reach 90-something percent. I think the adoption curve is always slow at the beginning, and in the middle you'll pick up, and then the last few part of the generation, like my parents' generation, probably will be harder for them to adopt. So it would again, and also I think a lot of the applications today are not done really well. So the applications need to improve. So I think that would take at least 1 to 2 decades, 10, 20 years.
What I would describe as the clarion call in your world, the crypto world, is for what people describe as smart regulation. What's the difference between smart regulation and dumb regulation?
Actually, there's a very simple difference. I've got to be careful saying this. The dumb regulations are typically regulators who have a single metric, which is to reduce risk. That's great. The best way to reduce risk is not to do is shut down everything. A smarter metric, or a secondary smart metric would be what about economic growth metric? So you should reduce risk and while promoting economic growth and innovation. When the smarter innovators have 2 matrices they need to measure on. So if people have that kind of mindset, they typically will be very pro-business, pro-innovation.
Binance, as I mentioned earlier, is the largest crypto exchange, by far the largest, several times larger than Coinbase or FTX. I looked this morning, and in the past 24 hours, Binance had done $40 billion of volume. Is that typical?
That's typical. Actually, it's actually not that high.
Generally higher. Today's a bad day, in other words.
Today's a slow day. So a couple of days ago, I think we hit $170 billion transacted in a single day.
What was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago, 2 years ago, I think we were very lucky to get $10 billion, 10 to 30 billion. 4 years ago, we were very lucky to get like 300 million billing. So the industry has grown really, really rapidly.
Your fees are low by industry standards.
Yeah.
Why?
We are already profitable, so we can actually charge even lower fees. We're actually thinking about that right now. So we are an organization. I do not believe in maximizing profits. I also do not believe in maximizing shareholder value in the short term. So I believe in growing the industry, providing the best value for our users, and then we'll grow. And long term, we actually maximize the shareholder value.
That sounds to me a lot like Jeff Bezos.
I don't know him personally, but I would love to be as successful as he is in the future.
So at $170 billion on some days, 80 on others, what's the revenue run rate that Binance is generating?
So this is a very tricky one to calculate. Roughly, we can talk about different numbers. It's in the billings.
Clearly.
Yeah. But it fluctuates because our revenue is in a couple of different 100 cryptocurrencies, and we don't convert them. We just hold them. So in any currency that you calculate in, say most people are more comfortable with US dollars. If you do a calculation today, it's one number. 5 minutes later, it's a different number because every price is changing. Mm-hmm. And say, there's some really interesting dynamics. The money we earned like a year ago, because we hold them in crypto, the crypto price went up. So our earning, as calculated a year ago, may be different now. When we go through a winter, whatever money we earn today will be worth much less. So we have that kind of dynamic. It's a very interesting situation for financially.
But regardless, it's billions.
It's billions now, yeah.
Can we put a number on it?
I don't have a direct number.
Well, your margins are also very high, are they not?
They're pretty decent, yeah. So
either way you slice it, your company is generating billions of dollars in profit every year.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, I could take a conservative market cap or a conservative multiple, or I could take an aggressive multiple like the one that's put on Coinbase right now, 8 times revenues.
Yep.
You own substantially all of this business, do you not?
Yes, but our fees are much lower than Coinbase's. So
I'm aware.
Yeah. So if you look at Coinbase's trading volume and multiply that with a multiple, if you use the revenue multiple, our multiple will be lower. If you use the activity multiple, will be much higher.
I think you know what I'm getting at, though. If we apply these multiples to the kind of business that you've built, you're one of the richest people in the world sitting right here.
I'm not sure about that, to be honest. And also, I don't really care about wealth, money, and also rankings, etc. I also I believe it was a Forbes interview just a couple of days ago. I said I will commit to donate 99% of my wealth away before I leave this world. So I'm not really interested. So I think anytime people pay too much attention to that, they usually kind of lose focus. Whereas what we want to do is we just want to build tools for people to access crypto.
What are your strategic priorities for this company? Where do you want to be that you're not now?
Yeah, so I think right now, the short term, we have to pay a lot of attention to this regulatory pivot. We want to be pivoting from a technology company to a financial services company. I think that will take a few months, a couple of years. Longer term, though, we want Binance to be a platform of other platforms. So Binance have an NFT platform marketplace. We have a sports fan token marketplace. We want to be the infrastructure for other entrepreneurs, for other teams, either within Binance or outside of Binance, to build their platforms. We can help them on in a number of ways. We have the largest liquidity in the world. We can give them liquidity by listing the tokens or coins. Before that, we can help them to do the initial sales through Binance Launchpad, the IEOs. Even before that, we want to help them to design the tokens, so we can advise them on the token economics. We encourage people to take a very long-term view. So our team has been pushing for 10-year unlocking periods for founder tokens. So today, if you see in the industry, they typically about 3-4 years, similar to ESOPs. We're like, no, that's too short. If you want to issue a token, you got to have a 10-year commitment. And so we do all of these things that we want to facilitate other projects to grow.
This raises a question for me. One of the most confusing things about the crypto market, many people, is the proliferation of coins, right? The speed at which these coins are created, the speed at which they acquire a market cap. I'll point to Himalaya coin, a recent example. This month alone, right? This is a coin, by the way, for those of you who don't know, has a small number of identifiable attributes. A promotional video involving an exiled Chinese billionaire. He's smoking a cigar. He's on a yacht. He's driving a red sports car. And it has the support of Steve Bannon, one of President Donald Trump's former advisors. Yet at one point, this coin was worth $27 billion. How do you, who understands this world, explain how this happens, how these coins are created out of evidently nothing and acquire market values? And I'm not just talking about Himalaya coin. It could be Dogecoin, which, as we know, started as kind of a joke. And shibainu, which is a satirical take on Dogecoin. It's sort of a meta thing. Yeah. How does this work?
So valuations are very subjective. So I think in addition to price and valuations, we need to look at liquidity. So you could issue a coin. You can issue some coin. Issue a trillion of them, and you just sell one at $1 to me, and now you suddenly have $1 trillion in theory. But if you want to cash out that $1 trillion, if you want to realize that $1 trillion, you need a lot more liquidity than that. I'm not going to pay $1 trillion.
So we should look at some of these coins and apply a liquidity discount.
Yes, and so you need to look at how much circulating supply is, and how much trading volume, how much liquidity there is. There are a lot of coins which are issued, but they have very small, large total supply, very small circulating supply, and the people are not careful, they push the price up. And promotional videos and other things could help it. But longer term, the coin has to have value. The market will catch up. The markets will understand it. And this is why for Binance, when we list coins, we only list coins that has decent enough circulating supply. So we want to avoid this kind of spikes. And if you have enough people trading this coin and the circulating supply percentage-wise is large enough, then you will reach some kind of a real market-driven value. Yeah.
Part of your engagement with regulators has been on a search for a new headquarters. Where do you think it's going? What's on the short list?
There's a few countries which are very pro-crypto in the world. And we do have a headquarters set up already, entity-wise. I can't announce it today. We are actually communicating that with all the regulators we're communicating with first. And then I think in a very short period, we'll be able to publicize that. There are a number of regions which are very pro-crypto. I'm not saying this is where we will definitely base our headquarters in, but for example, if you look at UAE, if you look at France, and Singapore, these regions are all very pro-crypto. Now we have many advanced economies that are really wanting to bring this innovation in. So, yeah.
Speaking of regulation, you're under the regulatory microscope in the United States and in the UK. There's some confusion between the distinction, or in the distinction between Binance and your US business. What is the relationship between those two? Does one own the other? Do you own them both? Is there a parent organization?
Yeah, so there are two very independent organizations. I do sit on the chair, I'm the chairman of the board for Binance US. That's probably the only linkage between the two organizations. Binance US use Slack for internal communications. I don't have Slack installed on my phones or any device. So I'm actually not in the day-to-day operations. So I do have a chat with the CEO once every week or so, and that's it, yeah.
Do they use the same technology?
They do use so Binance.com provides the product and technology for Binance US. And there has been many misreportings about, Binance US have data in China or Binance.com. Binance.com or Binance US never had data in China.
How do you see these investigations being resolved?
First of all, I'm not sure what the investigations point to. There have been a lot of news coverage about investigations in the US. No US regulators have ever publicly said anything about it. We are communicating with almost every single regulator around the world, and we feel that we have a pretty collaborative attitude, and we've been very helpful. So we want to hopefully keep it that way. Yeah.
You mentioned in an interview a couple of months ago that the U.S. business had plans to raise some money in a financing round and eventually go public. Is that still the case?
Yes, I think that will come out in about a month or two. That will close in about a month.
And why are you raising money? I mean, we just established that you're immensely profitable and.
Yeah, so we do want to diversify the cap table a little bit, and then Binance US has a route to go IPO in the US. Now there's a playbook. Coinbase did it, so it's very simple. Like, let's do everything that Coinbase did, compliance-wise, etc., and do it hopefully cheaper, and then and put it at a lower cost, and hopefully attract users and IPO that. And from an IPO perspective, it's better to have a few rounds of financing before that.
How much money do you want to raise in this pre-IPO financing round?
I think for this one, it's a couple $100 million. I actually don't know exactly the number. Yeah.
What about Binance, the parent company? Do you see that going public ever?
So right now, it's not clear. We're not ruling anything out. But Binance.com is a much larger entity, and we also need to look at regulations in different parts of the world to see where to IPO. And to be honest, in 5-10 years, we may see a merge between cryptocurrency exchanges and security exchanges. The cryptocurrency exchange may be able to support tokenized securities or security tokens. In those cases, it may be possible to just list on a cryptocurrency exchange, and we have we have a pretty decent liquidity. So.
May be able to bypass the stock market altogether.
It's not maybe there will be a merge at some point. It's not it's very hard to predict what the future looks like in 5-10 years, and I think that's the minimum amount of time it will take for us to IPO anyway. So The future has a lot of uncertainties, but we're open to all possibilities.
Do you see China reversing its ban on cryptocurrency trading?
Short answer is no, but I want to also make a clarification there. China did not ban crypto, they just banned crypto exchanges and ICOs. There's a very strong distinction.
Yes, there is.
So, and China, in fact, is actually issuing their own cryptocurrencies, the CBDC, and holding Bitcoin is perfectly legal in China. But running a cryptocurrency exchange in China is deemed as not kosher anymore. And that was the case even 4 years ago. So I don't see that changing anytime soon. I think China will try to push their central bank digital currency pretty hard, and they will at least try for 5, 10, 20 years and see how it works. Yeah, maybe not 20, but at least 5 years, I think.
CZ, let's finish with this. Hillary Clinton told this room not long ago, just a few minutes ago, that she sees cryptocurrencies as a threat in the same league as military intervention, bioterrorism. It's a threat. She sees it as a threat to American sovereignty. She sees it as a threat to the status of the US dollar as a reserve currency. Should people see crypto as a threat?
I think that's a very personal view. Anybody can choose their own stance, but a better view would be to embrace it. So, like for example, for Binance, we run a centralized exchange, and that decentralized exchanges, which could threaten our centralized business. What do? We embrace it fully. We invest very heavily in that. We get multiple teams working on that technology, and we want to own it. We want to have a stake in it. We don't really need to. We can't own, but we want to own we want to have the technology. We want to have the expertise, and we want to grow that. The best way to protect yourself against something that can potentially disrupt you in any way, is to become that. Is to invest very heavily with that. So if you look at Kodak, right? So Kodak they invented digital cameras, but they were so protective of their film cells. They probably had their senior managers' KPIs set in film cells, like a couple of decades ago. And guess what? Because they're so protective of those films, they lost the digital camera industry. What's better to do is to just invest very heavily in the thing that can disrupt you. And coming back to U.S. dollars, I think U.S. dollars is a very strong tool for U.S. to organize the world. It's probably much stronger than the military, and there is a potential for cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, etc., to disrupt that in some ways. But internet has this disruption power to traditional commerce businesses. Guess what? U.S. got that. Amazon's based in the U.S., Google's in the U.S., Facebook, Twitter, etc. If U.S. had that if U.S. didn't embrace that innovation, those companies may not be in the U.S. Those companies may be elsewhere. And so now you got a balance between wanting to attract technology innovation, embracing that, or just say protect our film industry and have that go elsewhere. But the technology will develop around the world. You cannot erase a concept from 4 million people's heads, 400 million people's heads. So I think a better way is to say, okay, no, there is some potential for disruption power, but let's not view that as a threat. Let's view that as an innovation. Let's embrace it. That's a much better way.
CZ, this has been great.